Okay, so this child we were working with, they were in my focus group, and our walks, what we were learning was they were going to write a spring poem. And what they needed to be able to do is that they needed to follow the steps to success. So this is how we assess the children's writing and their ability to be able to follow these independently. So as a whole class on the carpet, we decided that there's always 3 steps. So every child must be able to write one stanza about the 4 senses of spring, which they know about. They must be able to use describing words, and they must be able to use capital letters just to hit their level 1. Okay, and then we go up to the shoulds. And now most of the children should be able to do this, and this is for them to be able to secure their level 2 writing, and this is for them to be able to use alliteration in their poems and to also make sure that their work is making sense all the time throughout. And the final step, which was a could, which not all children will be able to do, but was to be able to use similes. So what I'll do is I'll mark it throughout and then I'll show you how I do it. So straight away, just from looking at this, I know this child can use capital letters. So I do a tick equals, and then I do the code, which is ABC, which stands for capital letters, and all children understand that. So if I read through it, so title, well done. So he's done a title, he knows that poems have titles. In spring you can see daisies. Just in that first stanza alone, I know that child can use wow words. Lovely. Right, his work is also making sense. And what he started to do, he's done see, hear, smell and touch. So I know he's also done the 4 senses. So just from looking at those first 2, I know that he's hit all these must steps. So what he can do, he can start to move up to should. And he did use buzzing bees. So I know that he's also used alliteration. But it was at this point in the lesson where we stopped the children halfway through their work and we decided to do a mini plenary. And we like to do these as a group, and as time goes on you build their confidence, and we put his work onto the visualizer, and all the children gave him his 2 stars, which is the fact that he did use wow words and he used alliteration. But his next step at that point in the lesson was for him to use a simile. That was something he hadn't used at. So when I worked with him for next, we'll see if he had used it. So in spring you can smell fresh air. Lovely. So he used green beautiful leaves as green as the grass, and it makes sense as well, so I can give him a tick for that. And then that's another thing that I can add, so I'll use a simile that he has used. Well done. And then this final one. Okay, the only thing, right, going through that work, he has hit all the steps, but the only thing I would give for him as a next step, so we do NS followed. Now if you look at his work, okay, he's doing his sense of smell, but here he's wrote the blue swashing waves, and that doesn't make sense. So what I would say to him is to write another stanza on smell, okay, and then I'll say make sure it makes sense, and that will be his next step, to go back and check that. And how we like to do it, at the end I do a T. Now after I've marked it, T stands for that he has understood. If he did not understand, I would do a WT, which means he would come to me and we would work together. So what we always do when we are assessing children's work, we get them to use their steps. This makes them independent learners, so we get them to assess themselves against the steps, and these are what we use. These are children's steps to success, how they can achieve the best that they can. How we also like to mark is I mark in a blue pen, and then what I do, the children are given their next steps in a red pen, and if I show you an example, is that children reply to their next steps in a green pen, and that's the colour codes. This is a summary of a piece of work, and what we do is here again, so these would have been the steps that they have met, this is the evidence that they've hit level 2A, this was their next step, and then that's how they completed their next step, and that is how we do our assessments.